Hello, hello, hello. All right, guys. I'm hoping I am live. I think I'm live, and I wanted to do this quick live. I just got in from work. Yes, I got in from work, and I decided to quickly do this live session. Let me log in so that I can respond to questions if we have questions. So give me a second. And guys, if you hear any type of sounds, just keep in mind that I just got home, so I do have everyone home. And I may not get all the quietness that I need for this live, but I wanted to do the live anyway. And try to check in on everybody on this Tuesday. So I usually do not go on site, but I had to go on site for a few things and decided to do this chit chat session just to check in, see how everybody's doing, and to also see how your day went. Gotta take off some of these jewelry. And also kind of talk about remote in general when you're working remotely. Hopefully you guys can't hear the planes, the trains, and some of those noises. Again, I live next to the military base and the airport, so there's a lot of sounds that is going on. So hopefully you can't hear much, but if you do, sorry about that. And let me log on, guys. Hold on a minute. So I just wanted to talk about remote work. Oh, I am echoing. I wanted to talk about remote work, see how everybody is doing. Let me say my hello. And how do you feel about that? Today was my first time going in quite a long time for work. And I went in for various different reasons. We do have once in a while where our team may have to go on site, or just in general, if anyone has to go on site, that option is available for various different reasons that may accommodate one going on site. I'm trying to take off my watch and some of this jewelry so it's not making a lot of noise. But remote work is something that I wanted to discuss today. How do you feel about it? What do you think about working remote? Whether you're classified as remote, whether you're classified as hybrid / remote, and what do you feel about that? I think sometimes people don't really like the idea of having that hybrid / caveat of remote, or in general all remote, or in general working from on-site if they were used to being at home when COVID happened. So sometimes I think that is something that people are concerned about. All of a sudden I have to go back to work. I have to go back on site partly. And every few days out of the week, you're required to go back on site, or you're required to work on site. Sometimes 2 days, 3 times a week, sometimes once a week, and sometimes maybe monthly, quarterly, and things like that. So I wanted to get your take on that to see how do you feel about that. If you work strictly remote from home, how do you feel about that? There are lots of coding jobs and other jobs in our HIM industry that they have been doing remote for quite a long time. And when COVID happened, now a lot of people have been granted that opportunity to work remotely. And this is with anybody else. So if you're joining this conversation, please say hello, give me a thumbs up, and just let me know what you're doing. I mean, you could be working for any type of company, agency. In general, I think remote work can apply to anyone. It's not just HIM. But I had a few things that happened today, and I just wanted to have that conversation. I haven't been on site in a while, and I went on site to meet some people on my team. We had a pilot study that we were doing, and I wanted to make some notes, guys, so I can be able to focus on some key points that I want to discuss. But the first thing, I have my little pencil case here, pen case. So the first thing I noticed, there's some pros and cons to working on site, and there's some pros and cons to working remotely, and pros and cons working hybrid / remote. So I can get this thing open. So going on site today was quite an experience, especially if you haven't been on site for a while and you're used to working in the building. So I have my blazer on here, and I had to, of course, get up this morning, get dressed. I didn't do too much makeup because I wasn't really trying to, it really wasn't a big deal of a meeting. I was meeting with a few of my team members to do a pilot study. The pilot study was needed. And so with that being said, they came on site. We started early. And also they are a team that works remotely. We're considered hybrid remote. And so when you're hybrid remote, I feel like it gives you a wiggle room to be able to come on site and do some things. It gives you wiggle room to work remotely. And going on site was quite an experience, because if you're not used to being on site and you're not used to having that standard workstation that you normally work with, then you may be in a compromising situation. They do have some organizations that have hoteling where you have to sign up to use a certain workspace. Is it shared? And that kind of stuff. So if you've experienced any of these things where you are working remotely, but sometimes you are expected to be on site, or you need to come on site, like, what's your experience on that? Now, I've had various different people, not just people on my team, others who have been working on site that are now sent home. And at times, a lot of people are discussing and telling me that sometimes it's not all that it pans out to be, because it's almost that if you're working from home, everybody's excited, you're home, you're in your space, you don't have to worry about being around others. And I think sometimes there is a con to that, because you miss being around your colleagues, your coworker, your boss, your manager, directors, mingling with other people on site. I'm going to tell you guys this. Me going on site, I got that I miss you feeling with my team. I'm used to seeing them every day, and I'm used to seeing them first thing when I go into the office. And in my area, we have a huge space where my entire team, I could actually walk into my office, come out my office, and see everybody. I do my walkthroughs to say good morning, hello. I can walk through to see the directors and everybody else. But I miss that on site feeling where you are mingling with other people, you're talking to people, you are just associating with others, unlike being at home. And I literally went today, I was giving hugs to some of my team that I haven't seen in a while. Although we meet on WebEx, when we have our department meetings, monthly meetings, we see on WebEx. It's not the same feeling. So I felt that missed connection. And that's something I wanted to find out how you guys are handling it. Comment down below, let me know, how are you handling it if you're used to being on site and now you have been home for months, years. We've been home for years, and we'll see every now and then. How are you handling working from home? Are you okay with that? And I've had people say, hey, I want to come back on site, but if there's no space and there's no location or no area designated permanently for you and your team, then that's going to be difficult. And then even if there's space and accommodation, is it going to be your entire team? That's another thing. So some people that I've talked to that are managers, directors in different organizations have said we have some allocated space, but we don't have enough for the entire team. And it was meant to be like that. With COVID, people have downsized. With COVID, people are no longer on site. We've learned that there's so many things we can do from home without having to do it on site. And so I think that has limited the amount of spacing that you can allocate for your team. So if you're a team of 50, 100, we no longer have that space, and also it's saving on funds for the organization. So it's no use leasing all the space and it's not needed. Can the job be done at home? And yes, it can. But my experience today was I had missed my team, everyone who came in for the pilot study. I was given hugs, and it was like I haven't seen them in such a long time. So it was great to see them, great to talk to them. We joked about certain things, we laughed about certain things, checking in on everybody, and conducted the pilot study. So it was a great feeling to be able to see people that I was used to seeing every day, but now I see you possibly once a year, if that. So I think that's something I would say. But just going into the building space itself, it's very quiet. There are not a lot of people in our building, and a lot of them are empty cubes, empty workstation, empty offices that are being utilized for other things. I think something with downsizing is if you can't use it anymore for a particular area, a particular department, the organization has to revamp and figure out what else can these be used for. So it was really quiet in the department. It's barely anybody there, a few people there. A lot of the people who are there in the department are more of people that are clinical staff, people who might be observing site patients. You need to see them on the screen if something needs to be, if they need to triage nurses and other clinicians to take care of our site patients. And then you have nurses, you have some providers that are also on site. And then you have a few directors, managers that are required to come on site every now and then. Sometimes they rotate. So I think that's something that is totally different from prior to COVID. We were on site all the time. You could walk down the hall and see 20 people walking past the hall. Now you'll be lucky to find 2 people walking down the hallway. Or the elevator is shared with so many people. Most of the time it's just you. So it's very, very quiet. You can hear people conversating, but it's not enough people as it used to be. The traffic is not as heavy as it used to be. So I do miss that with being on site. And I did ask a few on my team how they felt. And a lot of them is, hey, I don't mind not coming back on site, but they do miss the interaction. We're seeing each other for the first time in a long time. And I think that's something to consider, and something that I see 3 people are in this live. Welcome and thank you for joining. So I think that's something we need to consider, especially those of us in leadership role. How do you mingle, or how can you create something so that you're seeing your team, you're seeing your employees, you're seeing your staff every once in a while? Although we like working from home, I think it's good to try to still maintain that balance of being able to see each other, being able to network, being able to communicate outside of technology, WebEx, Skype, a phone call. And so I think trying to create ways that you can meet with your team periodically is good. One thing our organization does is every quarter, I think once a quarter, we are trying to meet and see each other. So our director would have a session, a department meeting, where we're all coming together in a conference room in one of our organizations. They rotate that, and we will meet and greet and talk and mingle, have lunch, and have our meetings. So I think us as leaders, we have to think of ways to do that, because mentally, I think it's great. When you work from home, it's family, yourself, if you don't have family living with you, and you don't have time to work with other people. Another thing that came up today was where you can possibly work with another colleague that maybe lives close by, or plan to go on site with another colleague or 2 or 3 employee if the space is available. That's another way to kind of get away from home so you're not constantly home. I have my office in my basement, which I got built in. So it's not like upstairs or on my top level where there is a huge window and I can see out the window. It's kind of like a nice space. And I have everything I need in there. Comment down below if you'd like to see an office tour. And I really decorated my space nicely. So I think that's something important for you guys to do. If you do have office space, make sure that you make it comfortable so that you're not bored working at home all throughout. But when you get the opportunity to do so, I think that you should be able to try to collaborate with someone on the job if you're close enough to others, and try to work with them somewhere. If it's not something that is going to impede on your productivity, find a location. If not, find a location on or at your organization that you can work. So for me and my team, I could have a couple of people come to the site location and we can work. We can go have lunch together and just catch up on things during lunch. And it's nice to have that face-to-face interaction. So today was really awesome that I got to see some of my team and say my hellos, give my hugs, and do what we needed to do. We were conducting a pilot study for the processes and workflow that we have in our area. That's one thing I think that is great to do too in a leadership role. Working remotely has changed a lot of things. There are new systems, new applications, new software that is coming about in our healthcare industry. So depending on what your facility is using, sometimes you need to do those pilot study. And that's another thing with us as leaders, managers, directors. You want to make sure that you're hearing your employees as well. And that's if there is some sort of disconnect, if there is some sort of process or workflow that is not going as planned, and you have enough people telling you as the manager, as the director, whoever, as the CFO, something needs to give, something needs to change. I think we as the leaders should take our time to look into that area. And that's what we were doing today, is a pilot study. We have some process workflow, things in black and white, but we do have a few hiccups with certain things that we're doing, and we want to make sure that we are working in favor of our team, and we are working, because we deal with patient documentation, we want to do it to the best of our ability, work more efficiently, effectively. So the pilot study was kind of like to capture different things that we're doing, the new processes that we are using, or the new system that we're using, to make sure that the time allotted is good enough and it works for our team. So we were watching as a team member would go through the entire process and documenting time, making sure everything looks as should be, and also discussing it too. I think working remotely, we don't get to see that face to face. So I was able to meet with my team and talk to them one-on-one as to certain things they're seeing in the system, certain issues they may have, and what we can do about it. So I think it's great to try to do something like that for your team if they're experiencing different issues or different concerns about, let's say, time allotted for certain things, because everything we do in our healthcare industry in general with technology is subject to change. So because of that, you don't want to negate things that are factual. You don't want to negate what's trending. You want to be able to pull those in and see how do we incorporate this to make sure that our team is where they need to be. And you don't want employees or staff members that are not satisfied. So we want to make sure that we're doing our best, and we want to make sure that we're doing it right. So that's why we conducted the pilot study, and it was awesome to do it. Initially, I was like, oh my goodness, we're going to have to do a pilot study and we're going on site. But just being able to meet some of my team members was exciting to see them after such a long time. and I will be conducting this again tomorrow. So I'll be going on site tomorrow. But we've also had team members where we've done the pilot study online. So we give people the option, because sometimes some people feel more comfortable, let me do it on site, or they'll say we can do it at home. So we make sure that our team is, whatever they decide based on that, give them that option and we can meet or we can do it from home. So the pilot study went great. I'm excited as to what we were able to identify within our patient review process, and also when we have corrections that has to be done to the patient's chart, because that's what my team handles. And so I think that went very well. But just the remote to on-site experience was really exciting for me. Another thing I noted is, even working remotely, a lot of things such as parking lots were extremely empty. I just came home not too long ago. It's around 6:25 over here. I got home in the evening, but it wasn't the norm, which was you usually have an overcrowded parking space. You usually have everybody and their mom on site. I and maybe 10 other cars were the only thing on the parking lot. And it was really dark out, so I had to get security to walk me to my car. But it's just a different experience seeing that everybody is literally working from home. And then coming in for the pilot study as well, dealing with the traffic was something that I wasn't used to, because I'm used to being at home. For those of you who work at home, we don't deal with traffic. If it's anything, I may be running out first thing in the morning, grab breakfast before I clock in for the day and start working here at home. Or if I have to drop the kids off because a bus didn't show up, that's about it. But I don't deal with the regular highway traffic. So having to deal with that was interesting. I kind of saw myself forgetting how to navigate here and there. Yes, I do not go to work, and I haven't been to work as in driving in years, over 3 years plus. So it's not something I experience first thing in the morning where you have the traffic. So I'm leaving very early to get to our on-site location, and actually extra early than I normally would. So that's another thing when it comes to being prepared. If you have to go on site, give yourself extra time. And another thing that happened today is I forgot my badge. I'm not used to taking my badge with me anywhere. So I kind of prepped myself last night, got ready, and forgot my badge. And nowadays and prior, even to COVID, you need your badge to access the building. You need your badge to get into your department. And I totally forgot those things. So I had to get security to let me in the building, let me in my department, and had to share a badge as I go in and out to use the restroom with another employee. So some of these things are just from me not being able to, that's my rice cooker, not being able to recall what I need and what I'm supposed to take with me. I did take my laptop, my power cord, but I just forgot my ID, which is something you need in the building. And you have to have that in the building. Another thing is, are a lot of people wearing masks? And a lot of them are not. Some people are, depending on where you are. If you're home, you're not used to wearing masks anymore because you're not going in and out in a public area. But as I got on site, I had to consider others and either wearing your mask if your organization requires it, or not wearing it, but at the same time, when you're seeing others around you wearing it, then, are you going to do it? Aren't you going to do it? So it depends on your organization, what the expectations are. One other thing I did today that I thought was a hiccup that wasn't, was kind of like open-toe shoes. When you work for a healthcare organization, we have policies and rules in place, especially when you're going to the hospital itself, like the ED department. You're dealing with an area where there are lots of clinicians there, doctors, people, are moving, like seriously moving pieces there. You don't want to be walking around in open toes. So that's something that has been policy when you are in a particular space. So I went in today, although I had on my blazer, I went in today with my open toe shoes, but it was a decent, nice sandals. and I went into the office because it was really empty, and I had my open toes shoes. I looked appropriate, I looked apart, but I normally would wear pumps or some sort of boots, but it was still nice outside. I decided to wear open toes. And halfway through getting to work, I kind of recalled that I may have wanted to wear a pump. And my manager had to tell me it's okay. We're normally not on site, and it's not any policy per se for this particular building. So you want to watch the building you're going into. What are the requirements for that building? Plus, you don't want to compromise the patients. You don't want to compromise yourself. So it's just like not wearing a mask and you're going in space where everybody is. So excluding you taking care of your patients or looking out for others, you still need to look out for yourself. So if that was me, I would wear a mask. So the same thing with your shoes. You don't want to put yourself in a space where everybody's wearing boots or whatever you want to call it, covered up, and you're not. And then you're in this compromising situation where you could get, I don't know, glass in your feet, you could get something. So, but anyway, I didn't have that issue, but I totally forgot because I'm not used to being on site, and I wore my open toe shoes. But that being said, I think it was great to go on site and just get a feel of how quiet things are, how society has changed, how what's trending now in our area is amazing, that people can really work from home. I always say that, sorry, I have someone in here. Hello from Dallas. Hello, hello. And is that Carmen? Carmen, hello. Thank you for joining. I appreciate you joining. So as we were talking, I was just talking about remote experience to find out what you guys think. Comment down below, what are you seeing is your experiences if you are working remotely and not used to working remotely, or you now have to come back on site for some reason. I think there's some sort of pros and cons to it. And I was explaining how I missed my team. And I told them sometimes I like working on site. I love working from home, but at the same time, I like working on site. You get to dress up, you get to look presentable and head out the house and go to work. And then another thing we got to do today is have lunch together, actually breakfast together. And that was really nice. And then we had lunch there after the pilot study. And so just having that relationship with our team, having lunch, talking, catching up on things, which I can do online, I can do on a WebEx, but it's not the same as in person. So as much as we all love, I know that working from home, you don't have to deal with traffic and things like that. I missed working on site. Now, either or, if I was to choose, I would choose working from home, but I would also choose every now and then going on site, kind of like a work date. I think sometimes incorporate a work date, because there are people who have expressed the fact that they would love to go on site. They do miss the people interaction. And I mean, this is like serious issue for this particular person. And I felt and understood where they were coming from, because this is not something they're used to. So working remotely, you have to make sure you truly can do things on your own. You can work independently without having to rely on others. I think that's an important thing. And of course, working from home, we get to save on gas. We get to save a little bit of money. You get to save on expenses, because working on site, you would grab lunch, breakfast, snack, juice, coffee, tea, you name it. So I think all of those things are things to keep in consideration. So Carmen says, I am a coder. I work from home 100% of the time. Yes, and I know coders have been doing it for decades. When I started as an outpatient coder, I didn't get the privilege to work from home because partly some of our team were on site. And usually as a new coder, that's what they do. They will have you on site temporarily, and then as you do well, improve, or earn it at a certain point, then you're sent home. But usually a lot of the seasoned have been working home coders have been working home for a decade. So I think with COVID, it wasn't like, oh my God, a big thing, but I think it was something that opened the doors for more people to start working from home, because this is where they're testing out if you can work from home. It's pros and cons to it. Yes, I know. And another thing I'm going to talk about, FYI, for me and for others, is weight gain. I think it happens. A lot of people don't think about it. I have been trying to maintain my weight. It's not easy. I know I've gained a little bit since 2019, since COVID, but it hasn't been to the point where it's drastic, and it could be drastic for a lot of people. This is a sensitive topic, but thinking about it, when I used to be on site, honestly, guys, I worked on the 9th floor for one of the departments. I was working with the HIM area. I would walk 9 flights, meaning when I have my break, I would walk up 100 and I think it was 120, 150, something like that. So I could do some walking with my colleagues, and we would walk around the hospital, we would walk around the parking lot and do things like that. But when we are working from home, sometimes I get lazy. And it's not easy to say we're leaving our desk, depending on where you are. My office is downstairs. I have to come upstairs, and then I have to go outside, and then I have to walk. And so sometimes it's not as easy to do those things. I think that's one of the cons, is that you may experience a little bit of weight gain. And that's why we need to be active. We always tell people, practice work-life balance. Don't stay sitting in your chair all day long. I have a TV in my office so I can listen to music. I can watch my TV, have something playing, and while I am working, I can hear the news while I'm working. There's some organizations that actually have a big screen sitting with different things that are happening in the organization, or a lobby, so you can go there and sit. So we get comfortable working from home. So I think for me, I experienced a little bit of weight gain, not to the extreme, but extreme enough for me to want to make sure I get back on track. Eating healthy, eating clean, we should be able to do it, but sometimes even working from home, I've learned, is not always as easy as we think. I work remotely. I can go to my refrigerator. I can buy the correct groceries. Sometimes, honestly, I'm home and I'll eat just as bad as I ate when I was in the office. Only that I'm not spending as much, but I could grab something to eat, and it's not always the best of the best. Or instead of having a salad, maybe I decide I'm going to go get some chicken from Wise, one of my favorite places to get chicken, and I'm going to eat that chicken throughout the week instead of grabbing the oatmeal or grabbing my tea and things like that. So I think sometimes even trying to maintain that healthy lifestyle is not as easy, because we work from home and we are in the vicinity of our home. And so we assume we're going to be good. We got it under control. I don't have to go to Panera. I don't have to go to Chick-fil-A. I can get my daughter to make me fries, and I still am in the same situation. So I think working from home, there are pros to that and there are cons to it. So that's one thing I'm learning to do, work-life balance, get up my chair, go outside first thing in the morning. If you can wake up early enough, go take a walk and try to get some steps in. I have a treadmill, so I'm practicing to get on that. So I think that's another thing. Also, if you want to talk to your boss or your manager about a certain situation, sometimes having to get on a WebEx meeting, usually most people in leadership, they are doing a WebEx meeting. They're not going to do just a phone call, because we want to see your faces. So if you're doing a WebEx meeting, can you really express yourself the way you want to express yourself? But unlike today, I could have my team members talk to me, tell me about certain situations that is happening. I can actually visualize it on the screen. I can see their face, their gesture, their hands, everything, the expression. It's a little bit different in person. So sometimes people feel more comfortable because I'm sitting in an office with my boss. I can talk to him or her, or my colleague. having to sit with my colleague and tell them how I really feel or what I feel and how something is different when you're on the phone with them because you're working from home. So it's, a give and take, I think, when it comes to working remotely. If your equipment is not acting right, you'll have to go on site to go get it fixed. Unlike if you were in the building, you could take it downstairs. IT can come straight upstairs to you. Like today, we had a few equipments that were not ready or were not put together as need be, and we had to call IT, and they came straight upstairs to come and cater to our needs. But when you work remotely, you're going to have to somehow commute, and hopefully there's no traffic, and get there on time, and hopefully you're not waiting. And IT now will have to assist you because it's not a walk up the building, walk next door, go up to the 10th floor, whatever it is. So I think that's another thing, the luxury of having IT right there for you. Or though from home they can actually log in if it's that kind of fix. They can log in and they can get into your system remotely and try to fix whatever needs to be fixed. So I think those are some pros and cons, especially when you're thinking of accepting a role. You have to be ready when it comes to working remotely, the expectations, the standards, the policies and procedures that you need to meet. And if you're not used to it, to prepare yourself for it. Talk to other people, see how they are when it comes to working remotely. I think I've had both where I have worked on site and also working remotely. And also another thing is if you do have issues, system issues, power outages, is that accommodated for your role? Because then you could be in a situation where you have to deplete your PTO time. I don't know, some organizations will do that and can do that, but I think having to deplete your time because you don't have those equipments to work, or you have to bring something in, could be a problem. So I think it's good to have that hybrid remote option where there might be something that you can come and work on site if you have that issue. But just going on site today was quite an experience. I was so happy to see people on site. I was happy to see IT team that I haven't seen in so long, other people in the ROI department. As normal, the ROI department deals with a lot of scanning of documents, prepping of documents. So it's difficult to have everybody at home, though we have a couple of people in the ROI team that still work from home, but some of our things within the HIM department, you still have to be on site, just like any other area. The doctors, the clinicians, IT department, a lot of them still have to be on site because we do have people that are working on site. So I think that's something to keep in mind. I just wanted to talk about that. I'm trying to see if I have any other comment in the chat. And let me know what you think. I know for the coding area as well, they have the different expectations when it comes to working remotely. You have to meet those standards. You have to be able to code a certain amount of charts. And depending on what type of services, sometimes things are done based on the dollar amount for those accounts. Then you have to meet those standards when it comes to working from home. ROI would be the same thing, where you have a batch of work to do, and so that could be based on how many you may be asked to pull over 50 accounts, or 50 stacks of scan document, or 100, depending on that. So sometimes quantity is accounted for when it comes to working remotely from home. Quality is as well. You want to make sure that your team is doing what they need to do. So hopefully people are doing those audits, and with those audits, that can help us stay in check. So and another thing that someone have actually asked was, working remotely, are there times when people are checking time? And I think for some organizations, yes, there are times where you have to clock in. You have to show that you are working at a certain time, and you have to show yourself in that active status. So those are some things working remotely you have to do for some organization. They have ways of tracking those times. Unlike if you're working from on site, you're there in person, although the work will speak for itself, you still have people, supervisors walking around, supervisors helping you, assisting you, seeing what you're doing. It's kind of like a face to face. So that monitoring or hardcore monitoring, some people call that micromanaging, is going to not happen as much. So that's something to keep in mind. I'm trying to think of anything else I can tell you about remote work that I most definitely am missing or do not miss. For remote work, having to show your face on these meetings, some organizations are expecting a face-to-face meeting. I think that's important. I don't think we should be working remotely and you never get to see the employee's face, your boss, your manager, director. I don't care what level you are on. I think it's great to be able to see people's faces. There are some organizations that may not expect you on certain meetings, but they do expect you to show your face on imperative meetings, such as department meetings. If you have a focus meeting based on, for my team, for example, we have it based on, if you're an auditor, we're focusing on those charts that you're reviewing, the service lines. That discussion is based on those things. So we want to see people's faces. If you're doing a sort of town hall meeting, sometimes because of the load, the amount of people that you have, the technological system will not be able to carry that weight of the entire employee for that organization, all of them logging in. So that might not require a face-to-face. The only people that would have to show their face within that WebEx invite might be the presenters, the director, the CFO, CEO, whoever, chief information officer. Those are the people who will have to show their faces, but you can't have a huge organization with thousands of people on a WebEx invite and showing their faces. So I think sometimes working remotely has allowed us not to have to show on those. But when you have smaller meetings, 30 people, 20 people, I think with that, sometimes 50, and we've had close to 100, I think, of a capacity load where we've had to show our faces. If it's a training session, I think that's something that is important, because if we were on site, you will be face-to-face training. We will be looking at your monitors, watching you do what you do. So for us working from home, I always require a face-to-face when I'm training my team, because we're remote. I need to see your reaction to something. I need to see if you have any questions and things like that, instead of training and I'm kind of looking at just a background. So for us, we normally have, you're showing your face for things like training, you're showing your face for department meetings, focus meetings. But once in a while, if I did a one-on-one session, review of some sort, then I may not require them to show their faces. But sometimes I will do a check-in, and that's when I will show my face, because I want to see each employee. I want to say hello, check in with them. And my check-in is not just on work, it's also based on family. How's your family doing? How are the kids doing? You know, how are you doing overall? You know, we have mental health, we have work-life balance. So we're talking about so many different things, and not just strictly what is expected of you as the employee, or what do you expect from me as your boss or your manager or your supervisor. So I think those kind of things will warrant a face-to-face because you're working remotely. So I like that. There are lots of technical glitches. That's another thing that I think with working remotely that happens. And when that happens, getting a fix to it might take longer than normal, because you're going to be calling help desk to help you out. So I think that is something that I kind of get worked up about, because then you're on a waiting list. Sometimes help desk has to triage it to a tier 1, a tier 2, and so forth and so on. Unlike if you're on site, you can actually find another workstation. You can have IT come up, as I said earlier, but usually there are plenty of extra workspace for you to go work on, or another task we can get that employee to do. But if you're working from home, you're kind of like at a hard stop once your equipment goes down and things are not functioning. If you can't see your files, if you can't get into your email, you're stranded as to what to do next. So that's a problem that I have with working remotely, and I can't do anything else because the network is coming from my organization, as in you're under that network organizational's umbrella, as in network services that you're getting to be able to see their application or access it. So once you're down, you're down. You can't do anything else. So it's either you're either going to try to go on site, and if you live far from on site, then good luck with that. That's another issue. So I think having to work close to home, work close to work is important. Like me, I don't live far from our on-site location. That helps a lot. I used to live about 2 hours away, an hour and a half away from on-site. Now I live much closer, so it's easier to get to the building. But imagine those who are not close enough, or people who are out of the state as well. I know a lot of coders work out of state. So if you do have those type of employees that are out of state, then it's going to be a problem. So I think technological issues are things that we face remotely that is out of our control. And that's something that I don't like. And I try to make sure that I have all my documents saved. FYI, guys, make sure you're saving as often as you can, because when things are down, they're down. And if you don't save your things, they're going to be lost. And if you work remotely and you're doing things such as patient's chart, you're documenting things, productivity logs, you're going to lose it, and IT usually most likely will not be able to find those things. So working remotely, you need to make sure that you're saving those things on your drive, in the applicable drive, as soon as you're able to, as soon as you can recall. So guys, those are some things that I just wanted to talk about. I went on site today. It was exciting to see people, others, and meet my fellow colleagues, meet my team, have lunch with them, have breakfast with them, and just walk around a semi-empty space, but just seeing people. I'm used to being home and used to being online for everything and having those WebEx. But today was quite awesome because I got to meet with some of my team, and then we got to talk about other things that they may want us to do as a team. I think one thing we can incorporate as leaders, FYI, is doing some sort of either retreat or some sort of get together, either during the holidays or a couple of times out of the year, so that your team can build that relationship or keep that relationship going. If you're used to a team that used to be on site, don't go ghost on your team, and think of ways, if you are in that leadership role, to try to get them together. Remember, we always have new employees coming in, people leaving, people moving up in different positions, because we do have professional growth and development. We have career growth with our team members. It's not that people are being fired or people are just leaving and quitting and resigning. We do have employees who will, move from ROI to coding, go from coding to, compliance, go from compliance to CDI, from CDI to data integrity or auditors. And when that growth opportunity is there, they're going to move on. So which means that that's opening the doors for others to come in and join your team. And with that, you want to make sure that people are able to see each other, not just through the web, but also try to see how you and your team can meet, whether it's twice a year. Figure out that and try to get them to meet and greet each other. I think it builds that relationship with your team, because the remote factor is something that not everyone can deal with. And I think you having that once in a while meet up, I think it builds the relationship for your team. People get to meet each other, people get to see each other, and most of the time is like really a great thing to do. We've done it with our team and it works out all the time. We just get everybody to come to a consensus of where we want to meet. You know, we might do a poll, a survey to see what the team wants to do and where do we want to meet. How do we want to do this? Is it going to be, you know, an after hour thing? Is it going to be during work hours, but we find time, maybe an hour during that time frame to say we're going to meet? Is it going to be during the holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas? Is it going to be a summer park event? Figure out ways that you can try to get your team together, because when you're used to a team that has been on site and now they are working remotely, sometimes that can impact productivity, it can impact relationship, it can impact building your team as a whole. And we want to make sure that people are able to function and feel appreciated. And so I just wanted to talk about that. I will see you guys on the next live. I had to do this to get people's take. Comment down below. Let me know, have you worked remotely? What's your experience? What is your thought about working remotely? If you could change it, would you go back to being on site? Or would you rather stay at home? Or do you prefer a hybrid to remote option? I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. And I will see you guys on the next live. Bye, y'all.